I'm a psychometrician. The psychometrician part is a psychologist that does statistics. And several years ago, one of my kids asked me, he came up to me, he said, "Dad, what do you do?" And I said, "I'm a psychometrician." And he said, "Okay." And he started to walk away, and I said, "Why are you asking?" He said, "Well, today in school, we're going to talk about what our moms and dads do, so I'm going to tell them." And I said, "Good luck." And so he went off to school, and I went off to work. And that night, I came home, and my son came up, and I said, "How'd it go at school?" He said, "It went well." I said, "Did you tell him what I did?" He said, "Yeah, I told him, Dad, but I could only remember the first part." And I wondered why the teacher looked at me a little funny that day. Evidently, I was a psycho. Anyway, does that translate into Spanish at all? We're going to talk a little bit about how leaders can transform from good to great. And we're going to review some of the research that we did to kind of understand this a little bit. I travel a lot. I'm gone about every week. I have a lot of miles on airlines. I came home one night. It was late. And my wife was asleep in bed. And so I tippy-toed into the bathroom, and I got ready for bed. And as I came out, I got into bed, and my head hit the pillow, and there was a crinkle on the pillow. And I realized there's a note on my pillow. And I'd been gone all week. And I'm kind of thinking, love note? Maybe I was just hoping. I don't know. But I took the note and I went into the bathroom, and as I opened it up, in fairly large print at the top of the note, it said, "Things you can do to not get divorced." This wasn't a love note. But what it was a long list of things I could do. And I looked at the list, and it was a long list, and I read through the list. At the top of the list, item number 1, clean your office. The next morning I got up, I headed in my office, and I cleaned and cleaned. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, my office is spotless. It's beautiful. And then I got out the list. And as I looked down that list, and I had a bit of an epiphany. I'm never going to make it through the list. Do you have a list? All the things you can do to be a better person, a better husband, a better wife, a better companion. And I mean, we all have those lists, those thousands of things. And if you ask anybody for suggestions on how you can be better, you get a long list. Now, as a psychometrician, I've been known to do experiments, so I decided this would be a good time for an experiment, since I'm not going to make it through the list, because I had to leave again on Monday. So what I decided to do was just to test and see how important my clean office was to our marriage. Here's my research. You might be interested. There is no correlation between my office and the success of our marriage. 0. My office can be dirty and our marriage can be great. Now, here's the thing. There were things on that list that made a difference. Big things, important things, critical things. And if you could figure out what really matters, what really makes a difference in life, then you're a lot further ahead. So Pablo started the day today by talking about what's the difference. Is it fixing weaknesses or strengths? His conclusion, it's about being good at something. One of the things we did on our research, ask people to assess your effectiveness. You're at the 50th percentile. How do you go to the 90th percentile? How do you go from good to great? And it turns out here the companion behavior is assertiveness. What's better than a really honest, accountant or an employee, one that's willing to stand up and say, this is wrong, we can't do that. And the combination of these two creates honesty. So we found out it was these companion behaviors, and what we found is that for every competency, there were a series of between 8 and 14 companion behaviors that helped you to make that transition from good to great. And so this manual, this document here, these are the companion behaviors for Orange. And this is the guide, right, that helps their managers make that transition from good to great. Well, how does this impact the bottom line, and how do senior leaders impact the people below them? This is a study I did with 5,285 leaders in 5 different organizations. What we did was we looked at top-level leaders, middle-level leaders, and bottom-level leaders, and we just measured their effectiveness, and it turns out top-level leaders are at the 75th percentile. Middle, about the 62nd, 63rd percentile, and lower-level leaders about the 45th percentile. That leadership kind of went downhill, or down in the organizations as you got lower. And as I've talked to people about this, I said, does that surprise you? And most people say no. I mean, we promote people from the best people from here to here, and we promote the best people from here. So hopefully, our performance management system gets us the best people on top, right? I hope you do. But it's interesting how it sort of flows downhill. Now, let me show you what we found here. If you look at that and you say, let's say that I wanted my 4th level leaders to be at the 50th percentile. And we looked at the gap between one level and another. We found there was about a 14.5 percentile point gap. If you want leaders here to be at the 50th percentile, then the leaders here need to be at the 94th percentile. See, because it flows downhill. The reality of this is that you're probably going to be less effective than your boss. It's possible you might be more effective, but the probability is you're going to be less effective. Now, let me show you what happened. One of the organizations we worked with, their top-level leadership was at the 63rd percentile. Now, do you think the next level was at the 63rd also? No. It followed the curve. When they were at the 63rd, then their next level was lower, and their next level was lower, and their next level was lower. It just went downhill. Leadership flows downhill. One of my clients asked me to come in and help their leaders improve. And they said, why don't you work with our 4th level leaders, maybe our 3rd level leaders? Because we're doing okay. Our senior leaders are doing okay. Well, were they? See, this is a real challenge. Can your senior leaders, they set the bar, they set the ceiling, and everything flows down for there. And so one of the messages that we have is senior leaders, you need to really be very, very effective. Let me show you one other question that I want you to answer. What's the level of effectiveness in your organization? Do you know? I was with a group, the CEO and his direct reports recently, and as I walked into that group, I said, I greeted them and I said, it's great to be here. And I said, so how do you folks think you are? Where would you assess your leadership effectiveness? And it was a little bit like Bob's example. They said, well, we're above average. And I said, well, actually, you're not. You're at the 39th percentile. And when you saw that study before, you said, and boy, it goes downhill from here, right? Do you know the level of leadership in your organization? Because as we look at the data, We have a telecommunications company that's at the 65th percentile. I won't say who that is. We have a large bank at the 59th percentile. We have an insurance company and the 80 top leaders, 51st percentile. A snacks food company at the 43rd percentile, and a global information company at the 38th. Do you know where you're at? Do you know your level of leadership effectiveness? Do you have a measure that can reliably help you know where you're at? See, I think that understanding how much money is in your bank account is really strongly correlated with the number of times you will bounce a check. People don't bounce checks when they know what's in their bank account. As a leader in an organization, I think it's critical to get your account balance and to understand where you're at. Because this organization here was really surprised that the top leadership group was there. And once the CEO knew that, he started to have a real plan for improvement. So we think, we're excited, we are so passionate about the idea that leaders can improve, that leaders can really make a difference, that you can improve as a leader. And I really feel like that process, you can make a difference. You can go from good to great, from wherever you are to better. So I'd encourage you to use this process, and I'd encourage you to build your strengths. It's a great process in terms of doing that. So thank you so much. I've enjoyed being here today.